to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It's 2 in the morning on the East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecci. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecci.
And there goes the music. Hello and welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave. Are you there? And Mecci.
Dave.
There's Dave. There he is. All right, good. And we're coming to live from the Sydney studios in Australia. Well, Dave isn't. He's much further up north, but that's okay. Now, if you didn't know it, Revolution Radio has a chat room. And I'm not in there right now because my machine is slow. I don't know if Dave is, but you can be too, right? It's always great in there. As soon as I get in there, I'll get stuck into it and look at your comments and respond to it. But give me some time to get in there. Now you can actually chat and listen from there. Freedomslips.com is where it is. You can check out our website, shinysideout.net, for more info, and also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Now there are heaps of ways to listen to this station. If you live in Kentucky, you can tune into WZZR 101.3 FM. That's old style with the radio. If you're anywhere else in the entire world, you can listen in via one of these apps. And you can use any device that is app capable. That's awesome. Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Shiny Side Out, our very own app. That's right. And at home, you can listen on a Grace tabletop digital radio, or you could be driving around in the GM motor vehicle enabled. Receiver-enabled radio in a GM motor vehicle. Could be great. These are all revolutions in radio. You could also buy a CD of our last year's shows. I don't think anybody has one yet, but go ahead and knock yourselves out. It's awesome. You can also buy merchandise. We have a whole bunch of stuff on Zazzle. You just get there via our website and get the Shiny Side Out logo on your T-shirt. The number to call in if you are in the United States of America is 347-688-2902, or you can Skype in. That's what we are doing. And you can use Freedom Screen. You just add Freedom Screen, one word. I did not listen to Solaris' show. My bad. My daughter has tonsillitis, which means that's exactly where all my attention was today. But I know she had an awesome show. She always does. I'll check with Dave in a second if he has. I'd like to welcome any new listeners. I'm sure there are a few. And I'd like to say hello to our old listeners, of course, right? Very happy to have you guys on board. This show couldn't exist without listenership, and nor could this station. Revolution Radio is completely listener-funded. What does it mean? Well, there's no corporate overhead. We don't have any corporate masters. We don't get any sponsorship or marketing budgets, right? It's all you. If you like the content, please do us a solid and donate if you can. It'd be brilliant. Dave, did you get a chance to listen to Solaris' show? And how have you been? I know you're on holidays.
Oh, yeah. I'm on holidays, and I hope that everyone can recognize just how darned relaxed I am. I am although, relaxation is only relative, I have my children with me. They're good kids. I love my kids. And we drove 10 hours in the car with two kids under 10. I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun. The kids are good. And the iPad goes a long way to keeping that car nice and quiet. Of course, you don't need to fill up. My car will do the 10-hour trip with one tank of fuel. But the amount of toilet and food stops for the kids. When I was young, I did that trip. When I was I can't say when I was a kid, but when I was young, and I got my first car, I would drive further than this on where there was no freeway, and the only thing I would stop for was a can of Coke and a chocolate paddle pop.
Ooh.
Which is a frozen milk confectionery. It's very, very nice, I tell you. And that's all I would eat on the drive. Can of Coke and a paddle pop. Very nice. They come in chocolate, banana, and as some rainbow thing. I don't know what the flavour is. They call it rainbow because you couldn't call it a flavour. So, yeah, that's the trip. It's been nice weather. But I'll tell you, Mecci, I drove on the day that Sydney started its deluge. I don't know how you were through it, but there was flooding everywhere. And, you know, it's terrible when you're on the freeway. You're on the freeway, right? And it's a dual carriageway, meaning it's separated between you and the other side, thank heavens, right? You're coming up on vehicles in the rain, and all there is a white out. You see the rear of the car as you get closer to them, and that's all you see. You can't see anything else.
Yep.
You know, and suddenly then you think that's bad, and your wipers are on single speed. The next thing, you can't see anything, so you've got them on double speed. It just seems to do nothing. It almost has zero effect. Yeah. I don't even know why there's a second speed. You know, it does nothing. And then the rain comes down even heavier, and there's nothing to see. You can't even see the white, because you can't see through the water on your windscreen. There's water wetting the windscreen between the wiper swooshes. Yeah. So, you know, everyone slows down, and all you see is red taillights for a while, and then you drive through that, and then suddenly the car's drifting across on the road because there's so much water. It's like 4 inches deep because it's just washing. Oh, man. It was so dangerous. It took me 10 hours. It's a 7-hour drive.
10 hours, really?
It added an extra 10 hours. It took me an extra 3 hours.
Wow.
And it was an accident which made everyone acutely aware of what's going on. And it was traffic stopped in the freeway. They diverted us 50 kilometers.
Wow.
50 kilometers off the freeway around through another town, just because this accident wasn't going to get cleaned up anytime soon. And then past that accident, there's more police tape in a car in a tree off the freeway. You know, it just, you know, I just implore everyone to, you know, drive to the conditions, everyone.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Don't be silly. But you asked me, did I listen to Solaris' show? I have great information from Solaris' show. And if you don't know who Solaris is, please go to freedomslips.com's archive. I think you have to pay a due to get access. Once you do, you're good. And she had Betsy Lewis in hour 1.
Oh, wow.
And in hour 2, she had her mainstay guest, who I actually want to interview. And that was Dr. Richard Allen Miller in hour 2. And he's always a lot of information backwards and forwards there. And, you know, you don't want to miss out on Solaris' show. And thank you, Solaris, for warming up the platform for us. And,
that's right.
So that's a joke. And, you know, we struggle on with her guests her audience after she's gone. And thank you very much for everyone also that's listening. Thank you, Mecci, for the show notes. I am on holidays, still got a week left. And but I wanted to bring up something, Mecci. Last night, I don't know if you caught it at all, but it was, I don't know, like 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm watching, you know, woke up and started watching TV. And there was a guy on ABC News 24 on the television news. And this is the Australian Broadcasting Commission, not the American one. And they were talking financials, financial forecasting for the next coming year. And it got my attention when he said, you know, the GFC hit us pretty hard. And I thought we got out of it pretty well, you know. But it's like a grazed knee. We had a really hard time through it, through the GFC, and Uncle Kevin's Christmas bonus kept retail alive for that year, and it's never really recovered. And as we look around the world, we see the same effect. A lot of countries haven't recovered very well, but you look 10 years later after a financial crisis, and if you haven't recovered, things aren't going right. Yeah. So what allowed us to survive that was China's the exportation of our mining resources. So 50% of our economy is derived from exporting what we dig up out of the ground and sell it to China. That allowed us the ability to survive that GFC.
Yep.
Where the other countries were in such a good position and didn't have such a strong buying partner. However, what they were talking about, Mecci, and I'll tell you this straight up, the forecast wasn't good. the fellow from one of the strongest Australian financial companies, he's the representative for that company with what would have been an approved statement. He stated clearly that the coming financial crisis is right on our doorstep. He named Canada is in recession, Brazil is also in recession, and he said we've had 24, I think, or 14 or 24 periods of below expectated. Is that a word? Expectation.
No, it's
growth. Okay, 14. It isn't a word. I'm on a vacation. So 14 or 24 below expected.
Yes.
Retail figures. We haven't grown the way that even the Treasury, the government Treasury, has decided that, through their trends forecasting. We're continually going on the slide down. And he said it's any moment that we'll be in a recession as well. Mm-hmm. Because China, while they saved us last time, aren't going to be there for us this time. Because he said also that they're only about a third of the way through their crash. They're currently crashing. And if you look at something in slow motion, like a train wreck, this is the first third of that wreck. And they're, as we saw like more than a year ago, their production their sales are down. And then we heard that their production was still being kept up. And then they started, we're slowing production down because they've filled up their warehouses. And so now we've just gone through the period where they're laying off staff in their production because now the warehouses are full. They don't need to produce anything because they've got enough to sell us for next year. However, what's about to happen is they're not going to be manufacturing. We won't be exporting. They won't be buying, and they won't save us from what's around the corner. And this is what the finance guy said. He said that we're staring a recession in the face right now, and it's surprising. I'm paraphrasing him, but it's surprising we haven't already been there. We've just held on.
Yeah, I know. You do realize that China had its stock market shut down automatically twice last week, right? They lost more than 5%. There's an algorithm, there's actually a program in place that shuts down the Chinese stock market when losses go above 5%. So it automatically goes, boom, shut down. That was disabled at the end of last week, so they could keep on trading. So you're right. It's not looking good for the Chinese stock market at the moment.
Yeah, and it was, from what I understand, from one of our insiders, Mecci, who's I'm a big fan of, trustworthy information. In two of those sessions, 7% was lost, 14% all in all. And one of those sessions only lasted 10 minutes before their stock market was shut down.
I know.
Yeah, so, you have to wonder about a country who decided to put some mechanism in place and went, actually, that's, let's just turn it off. Shall we just keep turning it off? We'll leave it off now. We put it in place to stop it from failing. What do you mean? It dropped another 7%? That's 14%. Mecci, when have you seen a successful, stock market week where it's gone down 14%?
Yeah, that's not super successful, no.
No. So for look, all those people, we know we're not quite talking the finance talk the way that the financiers talk. However, look, given the amount of information that we've seen and what's about, I'd be careful. I'd be extremely cautious. I know that not my investments personally, but I took all of my stuff out, all of my superannuation out of the high risk category of my investments, because we did that in Australia. See, we have a 9% or whatever it is given to a financial institution that we nominate for our superannuation, and that's 9% of our wages weekly, or whatever your pay period is. And that's given to them, and we nominate what we want them to do with it. Now, I've actually nominated mine to be in cash because I think there's something coming, and I prefer not to lose it like I did the last time. I lost about 50% during the GFC. Good for you. American bankers who seem to have got it through that unscathed, including their bonuses, Mecci.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's really the problem, guys. And Dave is right. But we need to understand. Take a step back. We need to understand how the whole system works. And we've spoken about this. Don't want to spend too much time on it. But we are living in a rigged system. It's like you're playing roulette, okay, with where you don't see any numbers. You don't see the numbers, and you don't know where the ball is going either. But you get to, put a lot of money on the table, and that seems to be disappearing. Even though you don't see a croupier, you see nothing, right? So that's your roulette. Everybody else on the other side, the people that are actually running the casino, they see everything. In fact, they know your bank account, they know how much you make. They know everything about you. You see nothing, so you're blindfolded essentially, and they make the rules. So stock market's going up and down. Yeah. For the most part, if you have billions or trillions of dollars at your disposal, you determine which way the stock markets go. Not actual economies. That's a different thing, right? So you've got an economy. That's a real thing. Here it is. In the economy, you've got factories and workers. You've got products and services. These are all fairly real and tangible things, right? That's the economy. Then you have the stock market, which is completely fabricated. Right? There's nothing real whatsoever. It's a fantasy, all right? It's a complete fantasy, and people are betting, right? That's why I gave you the analogy of the roulette. They're betting on the movement of stocks. It has nothing to do with the actual productivity. It has nothing to do with the actual economy that underlies these stocks. The stocks are being traded independent of anything like that. They're being traded on rumors, on hunches, and sometimes people are betting that stocks will go down like they have just before 9/11. And just to Chindolo and our other listeners, just very quickly, a superannuation is like a 401k or a pension fund. So
that's what it means. Yeah.
So most countries have pension funds governed by the state. So you get a pension paid out by the state. Your taxes fund that. In Australia, we won't. When Dave and I retire, we are not going to have that because there are too many old people. So I think 20 years ago, they introduced the superannuation, which is essentially a private pension fund. So you pay into that yourself, the way it should work is that your employer pays a percentage of your wages, 7 or 9%, as Dave outlined, into the fund, and then off you go. That works more or less well. Once you get taxed, look, is it a good thing? I don't know yet. I haven't got mine. I don't know. I'll let you know in 20 years when I retire if it was any good. But right now I've got mixed reviews, and a couple of my friends actually have taken the money out of their super and are managing it themselves. You can do that. You can invest in property with that money, with the only stipulation is that you cannot live in that property. Right? It has to be a rental property that builds your superannuation wealth. Anyway, so the system is rigged, completely against it, and there are no surprises for the real players in the stock market. There aren't, okay? Everybody who's surprised is not a real player. They're just like you and me, right? They're more or less blindfolded. Some have some inside information, but for the most part, these are all engineered. The stock market crashes, in my opinion, are engineered. Any currency shortages, any runs on banks, all of that is engineered. If a banking house fails, right, like we saw with the Lehman Brothers, for example, that's deliberate. That's deliberate. They did something or didn't do something they were meant to do, and they were punished for it, or they were chosen to be the sacrificial lamb. See? Even banks can go bust. See, Mr. Joe Average? It's not just, us bankers, we're just as vulnerable as you. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
No. That's your sacrificial lamb. Thank you very much. But it doesn't matter. Right? All I can say is Dave is right. Be careful. Be careful.
I have to say, yeah, you're right. So look, just Mecci's right. Look, there are 10,000 things that control the stock markets up and downs. Any combination of those can make them move in any direction, even just confidence.
Yep.
So if you lack confidence in the market, you'll say, well, actually, no, as from a personal point of view, I might decide to take my money out. Well, I'll have copped a 10% hit, but I might have made money, or I might not have, and I might decide to remove my money from it. And what Mecci said before is the big players can actually have an effect. So if they decided to sell up all of their stock entirely and get out, that would plummet the value of the stock for anyone else. And then they could go, actually, no, I've changed my mind. I'm going to buy it all back again. But now it's worthless, and they can go back in at a low price again.
But it isn't worthless because, like I said, there's the real economy, all right, and then there's the paper stocks, or even not even paper anymore, the virtual. It's only a paper loss, all right, until you sell it.
Yeah. So look, like I said, we're not big players in this, and I'm sure that if we were to interview an expert, he'd give us a greater detail. Mecci, there wasn't, except for the terrible loss of through fires. We've had a lot of fires on the Western Australian coastline, and they're still uncontained. And a lot of houses lost.
Horrible.
More than a third of an entire town is gone. And I mean gone. There's only like bricks.
It's ashes. Yep.
Yeah, that's all it is. And to see that, we're this week coming, we're going to have high 30-degree temperatures, like 38, 9, and
what's it, 110, 120 for the
yeah. And that's what we're going to be heading towards this next coming week. And I'm acutely aware of it because of my position surrounded by bushland. So I'm going to use all of Tuesday in the heat to cut down as much as I can around my house to at least make it safer for my family. It's tough. All I can say is tough. And the gum trees, anyone in California or anywhere else in the world where we've spread the gene pool for gum trees, they just burst into flames. It doesn't take much for the oil in there to suddenly be ignited. So it's a tough place. Mecci, do you have any other news, buddy?
I do. I have a news item, and it's not really news anymore. It was news when it happened, clearly. But I want to mention because it's my hometown. Right, something happened in Cologne, New Year's Eve, which only came to light a few days after it happened because all the media outlets completely blocked it out.
It was on Facebook, though, I have to tell you, and I've been watching local throughout this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. So all the major media outlets, they had nothing on the story. This is around the attacks on women on New Year's Eve in Cologne. As I said, my hometown, and I know exactly where all this happened because they described it, and I was horrified and disgusted, and again, why my hometown, right, of all the places? So 1,000 men of Arab or North African appearance attacked women, groped them, and I think a couple of women were raped as well, and stole, and that was all essentially was a criminal operation, stealing mobile phones, I think wallets, whatever, right? So, and the police was completely ineffectual. The response of the politicians, the mayor, she said, I mean, you women shouldn't be doing this and that. No, wrong. Women can do whatever they want. They can go out and party and celebrate New Year's Eve. That behavior that was displayed is completely unacceptable. You find them out of the country immediately. I don't even care if they're Germans, right? Out. Or lock them up forever. I don't care. This is not behavior that we should condone even a second. Police completely useless in this case, right? And then the media blocked it out because, of course, what happens is if you describe the attackers as of Arab or North African appearance, then you stir up a lot of anti-immigration sentiment. And with the refugees from Syria, and I'm not saying that the attackers were Syrian, then you've got the I guess the makings of potential riots and all kinds of issues in Germany, and not just in Germany, elsewhere as well. So, has something gone wrong? Yes, it has. Will it keep on going wrong? Yes, it will. This situation is well beyond the solution capabilities of the existing politicians in Germany, is my opinion. It'll take a very tough approach. I don't want a right-wing government in Germany in power. I don't. So, but you know what? I can see that happening, guys. You have situations like this happening. You got another million refugees coming in, and maybe more. With the economic situation going to be what it is and what it will be, right? You are in a pressure cooker. It's 1928 all over again, guys. Yeah. 1928, 1933. Remember 1933? Well, you probably don't remember it. You should look it up, though. And it is not something you should dismiss, right? It's because this is how it starts. These are the little things that started. And again, I'm saying here, this is all deliberate. This is deliberate. This is meant to throw Europe into chaos. It's meant to stir up I guess, Arab feelings or anti-Islamic feelings, right? I mean, we don't even know if the attackers were Islamic. You know, there are quite a number of Christians living in Africa, North Africa, and the Middle East. Okay, so, but I just wanted to mention it, and it is a huge issue. It's going to be even much more of a problem going forward. I'm not too super keen on taking more refugees into Australia, but we're only taking 12,000 still. You know, I don't know. I don't know. The solution has to be regional. The solution has to be regional. We need to, the region needs to be fixed up. I'm talking about the Middle East, right? The West screwed it up, you know, with some help from history, but we can't fix it by having, you know, millions of people in a diaspora. We saw how well that worked for the Jewish people, right? You know, having millions of people out without a homeland. Doesn't work, guys. That's all I have to say about that, because otherwise I'll just get too too riled up about this.
Well, Mecci, can I just assist
Please.
for a sec? All right. From my comfortable sofa here, so far away from everything, in a country town, all I see, and it's almost like a renewed view on everything. Last night was the first time, I think, or today was the first time that the ABC or Channel 7, one of our big players, ran that news story about New Year. It's the first time. And it's only because of Merkel's speech, and they played a bit of Merkel's speech. And I couldn't believe that it was this long after. I mean, what day are we at today, Mecci? This is the 10th. It's 10
Yes.
days later.
Yes.
10 days
Yes.
later before they decided to run the story. Now, you're right, Mecci. I think that the most important part of this is that they don't want to stir anti-migration sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
We've both, you know, I lived in amongst Italians and Greeks who were for the most part, as the best people ever that changed the Australian landscape, introduced us to new ways of life and opening our eyes and giving us, you know, some of the best foods ever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Chinese have been in Australia since the gold rush and have offered us everything that they can. One of the things that the anti-migration or the, you know, I don't want to say Syrian like you said. I agree with you, Mecci, because when they opened up the gates for this migrant crisis, they stopped taking papers. They stopped checking people. And as soon as they did that, there was people coming from everywhere. It didn't matter anymore what their origin was. It was just where their destination was planned. And since August, I found that news story. Since August, Germany had was overwhelmed. Their borders were overwhelmed and they couldn't check papers. Now, people weren't carrying papers. They were discarding them or they just left without them. I'm not going to suggest that everyone was guilty of discarding their identities. But, I mean, clearly there are people arriving without them. And, you know, if it was my town, I'd want to help. But I think the best help that all of the countries in the UN, member states, could have done was to build temporary accommodation exactly where they were at the border. Not in Germany, in Syria's border with Iraq. Build a temporary town there. House them all.
Don't have to. It's already there. They've got 1 million tents in Saudi Arabia.
Oh yes, air conditioned.
Dude, I looked at the pictures. It looks better than the suburb I live in. It's pretty nuts.
All right, and so that would, and now this is going with Mecci's call that it's intentional. Is that, well, there wouldn't have been any other reason to house everybody everywhere else if there was already a place to put them.
Yep.
All right. Now, if you start poking around, you find that Saudi Arabia accepted none. Because who would want to go there? Right? And this is the big problem. The big problem is, well, now we've got this, now there is a problem. And so what happens? What's the next step? And when you listen to like our story from last week, the Pope and the Queen both said this is probably the last Christmas. What is in store that they know about?
Yes.
What could possibly be it? Now, if you have 1 million people enter your town to live that don't have a home and they don't have jobs, there's no supporting infrastructure for them, what's going to happen? Yeah, a lot of people this week, and I got blasted, Mecci, I have to tell you, for putting that news story out.
Why?
Because people were telling me that I was, un-Australian, that I was anti-migration. No, I wasn't. I was showing you this is one of the negative aspects of having such a high quantity of people, percentage-wise, enter your country all at once with no jobs. It's not a planned thing. You didn't say, oh, cool, do you have a sponsor? Is there someone in your country that can sponsor you? And you've got medical expenses as well. You've got food and housing and medical. You've now got to look after every single one of these people, Mecci.
But see, this is exactly right. This is a key thing. Nobody thinks about the logistics. Let me give you an example, and then I will come to my point. Most lotto winners are bankrupt within a year. Why is that? Because they don't think things through. Okay, they don't realize, if I buy a $2 million house, there's maintenance, there's land taxes, there's council fees, there's gas bills, there's electricity, there's things I have to pay for. No, I'm just going to buy myself a $2 million house if I win $2 million, and then next year I'll live in the street. Thank you very much. It's the same here. It's a knee-jerk reaction. We're going to take in 12,000 people. We're taking 1 million people. We're taking 500,000 people. I don't really care how many people, but that's how far the thinking goes. I can tell you for a fact in Germany, they're ringing around looking for places to stay. They're ringing private people to see if they can take in refugees. That's the government, right? Or the councils. So the government might apportion it to you. You get 10,000 refugees, Mr. Councilman, go house them. This is the thinking here. And I'm not sure that Australia is necessarily better because, okay, 12,000 plus, 12,000, that means 12,000 jobs, right, eventually, or university places. You need to have 12,000 houses or flats, for these people, or, well, maybe less if they're families, but still thousands. Infrastructure, hospitals, schools, right, for these extra people. Now, 12,000 is manageable, right, but again, it depends on if you look at the total intake of numbers, but then you also don't know how well they can integrate, right? I mean, they didn't really want to come here in the first place. They had to come here because their country was being shut up, right? If you're an immigrant and you're in a country and you want to come here, then go through the process and you actually want to be in Australia, right? So I figured that you want to make a go of it. But if you had to flee your country because you had to, you didn't really want to come here, right? Then are you really ever going to integrate? Are you always going to think, I just want to go home and and live my life there? And my thoughts are always in my home country, I imagine, right? Mm-hmm. And you probably bring your problems with you. Well, these guys over there, they might live here in Australia as well. This religious faction, it's their fault that I was kicked out of my country. So I'm going to make their life hell. I'm going to do what I can to get my own back. That's the attitude I saw during the Balkan crisis. At university, I saw a lot of people from the Balkans fighting amongst each other at university. Really? That's not good in Australia. These are guys in Australia. They're probably born here, right? Anyway, but Dave, this is really, you're right. This is a big issue. They don't think things through.
Yeah. Now, a number of things were brought up in support of my way of thinking on this. That I thought that it was better just to build a town. It's cheaper overall, right? The infrastructure, you can just create it. I know that the military do this for themselves all the time, yeah? But anyway, one of those things that came up, and I wanted everyone just to be aware of it, and that is if you go to Abu Dhabi, Mecci, and you drink alcohol, what happens to you?
Oh, well, in the street, unless it's a specially designated area, you're going to get arrested. That's what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, and what happens if a female in Abu Dhabi, for instance, happens to walk in front of the name? Unaccompanied.
Yeah, that's no good either. You might be picked up by the religious police.
All right. So there are, and if you say you were drug smuggling in Australia versus Indonesia, we all know the difference of the outcome there. In Indonesia, you are killed, you are executed after a sentence, and in Australia, you will probably you'll have a short sentence and you'll be out on parole. Mm-hmm. However, if it's certainly what would kill you in Indonesia, you'll get out here quite quickly, 5 or 10 years. Now, all I'm saying is, I think what's really important is that we don't go there expecting to change their laws. Mm-hmm. And I think the integration component of what you mentioned before is the ultimate end point. is that if you migrate somewhere, I would hope that you would want to make a go of it, like you said, Mecci, because we're a bunch of goers. That's what we are, Mecci.
That's it, exactly.
You know, and I know that everyone listening, it's your thing too. You want to go somewhere, you know, your intention to go there is fine. But when you're forced to go somewhere and you have nothing, what do people do? Mecci, say the electricity went out and it never returned back again. And, you know, what would the vision be of it 6 weeks later?
Well, it depends
of
where
a
you
million people.
It depends where you are, right? Now, it'd be horrendous in certain areas as well. Other areas in the world might come together and actually make it work. But for the most part, you'd be living in the jungle, right? It's in fact, whoever wasn't eaten would be living in the jungle.
Exactly. Now, this is the point. Now you've got a million people moving that don't have a home, that have no jobs. Sorry, that don't have no jobs. They don't have a job. There's no income stream. They've got no food. They're desperate, and the desperate people are going to do desperate things. Now, I feel sorry for every one of the people that were negatively impacted on New Year's, and all of the other riots that I've seen from all the other countries, which appear to show any of the people who have been forced in this, migratory movement of humans. I'm trying to avoid all the catchphrases here, but those people are doing crazy things. And if it was me, I'd push them back out of the country. Good luck with that. Mm-hmm. If you come here and you honestly want help, I'll help you. Absolutely. I'll help you as long as you're sincere. If you're sincere and you really want help, great. If you don't want, you know what? I think there's a military plane leaving here that we can have you on, and we can send you back to wherever it was you came from. You can start again until maybe you get you become sincere about this.
Yeah.
Unless, Mecci, the whole thing is orchestrated.
Right, and there we go again, right? So again, we've said this before, and we're going to say it again, and this is really sort of a segue into today's show. All of this, the way we live, the world we inhabit, or we think we inhabit, have been in the making for a long time. These plans are coming to fruition, more or less. Be aware, though. Be aware, though, that the truth is a lot stranger than you probably realize, right? And we'll talk about that toward the end of the show, I guess, maybe next week as well. But everything has been orchestrated to a certain end. And the last couple of shows have been about this. This is, in fact, show number 202, 202, 20 and 200. I'm sorry if the sound isn't too good, guys. I'm just getting some comments here from the chat room. Dave is in the middle of nowhere, and my machine is really slow. I just upgraded my Apple to OS X to OS 10. Don't do it.
Oh, for shame, man.
For shame. So don't do it if you can help it. Okay. Stay on whatever you're on there. But yeah, but it's being orchestrated. And this is really what this show cycle is about, the hypothesis, our hypothesis, which I'm actually turning into an article and maybe even a book for Nexus Magazine, where we can read all about it if you like. So just the show notes for the hypothesis run into 36 pages, and that's just straight up material. There's a lot more background, so you can actually fill several books with this material if you really wanted to. And last week we spoke about the importance of the pineal gland. I'm hoping that's coming through clear enough for you guys.
Now, you know what, Mecci? I have to say that it's supposed to be pronounced pineal gland, and I apologise to all of those people who took both sides of that argument. The pineal or pineal gland. It's in some cases, Mecci, it can be pronounced. Some dictionaries say both ways. Some say it's the Latin, which is the pineal gland.
Tomato.
I would like to suggest that an apology is due, and forever I will forever say pineal until I'm proven wrong.
All right, look, we can say pineal, or I could say pineal, and you can say pineal. Tomato, potato. It doesn't matter. Okay, pineal is fine. We'll go with pine because it's the pine cone. Pineal makes sense.
There you go. Let's do that.
Let's go with pineal. So the pineal gland and its paramount importance to ancient cultures. Most of you most of the rest of the world don't really realize what we're looking at here, right? And there were some images we shared with you last week, and I'll very quickly just describe them. There's the catechus, which is depicting a pine cone right on the top, and it's got two snakes winding itself around it. It's the symbol for apothecary, or for the doctors. You recall that. The papal staff is topped, in fact, with a pineal. With a pine cone, right? It's topped with a pine cone. Angkor Wat, the pine cone motif features prominently. Look at what the domed roofs look like. They look like pine cones. The hairstyles of the people depicted in the frescoes are pine cones. And there's one very striking one where one figure is flanked by two elephants. We see this element of the pine cone being flanked, in the case of the catechus, it's two snakes, the two winged snakes, in fact. Or it's swans sometimes. In the case of Angkor Wat, it's elephants. And the others as well. There is in fact peacocks. The one in Rome is flanked by two peacocks. In my opinion, that is a symbol of the two hemispheres of the brain, with the pineal gland in the middle of it, of course. It's right in the center of the brain. The pineal gland also is not part of the brain-blood system, and lives beyond the blood-brain barrier. Before it gets a lot more blood than anything. In fact, second only to, is it the kidneys? What was the other organ? I can't recall now, but it's
the liver.
What's the liver? Yeah, you're probably right. So it gets an extraordinary amount of blood flow. Anyway, so, and in fact, Marduk, the Sumerian god Marduk, is also handing a pine cone to someone. Pine cone everywhere.
I think, Mecci, that the Sumerian god is using a tool. To me, that looks like a pine cone shaped tool of something or other.
Could be.
Extraordinary that it should be depicted like that.
Yeah. Hitler's desk. Hitler. He's one of the front panels in his desk features staffs also topped by pine cones. So the I guess the reverence to the shape of the pine cone. Think of the pagodas, the shape of the pagodas in Japan and China, the roofs in Asia. Yeah, think about a lot of people call them onion roofs in Russia, the churches or the Kremlin even. No. Much more akin to a pine cone. Pine cone everywhere. Pine cone. Why? You say, why? I mean, you could choose any natural thing that you want. Why a pine cone? What's so special? In fact, some of these countries may not ever have seen a pine cone. I struggle to think if there are any pines in Cambodia, right? But nonetheless, the motive is there. And why is that? Because of the pineal gland, which resembles a pine cone. Then you've got the Eye of Horus, which in cross-section is the pineal gland. Compare them, and you just have to Google and type in Eye of Horus, pineal gland, cross-section. You got pictures next to each other. It is a very important piece of the puzzle. Clearly, nobody ever talks about it. Nobody articulates it. You don't learn about it in school. Nobody goes to you. Oh, look, you really should know about the pine cone. You really should know about the pineal gland. No one ever talks about it. No one talks about the symbolism behind it either. At least not in my schools. So what is it then, right? What is it? It's at the center of your brain, and this is what we believe. Dave and I believe, well, I believe it for sure, and Dave is just going to be guilty by association here.
Yay!
It's the escape hatch. It's the escape hatch. A lot of secret, and we're going to go into this today, a lot of secret initiation rites talk about the opening of the third eye. They talk about opening of the third way. They talk about becoming aware of your spiritual body, becoming aware of a whole bunch of other stuff. They're talking about activating the pineal gland. So you say, well, so what? So what? See, this is really the clever makeup of our prison. Our prison, you're actually living in your prison. All your whole life, you're living in the same prison. You, your body, that's your prison right there. And you know what? It's ingenious. Then you die, but that's not the end of it. You're reincarnated, you're reborn, your essence, your soul, I don't care what you want to call it, whatever it is that makes you, right? And I'm not talking about all the stuff that you know and learn. I'm talking about the you that underlies it all, that makes you react to certain things, that that maybe that's whose favorite color is green, whatever. But your essence, right? Let's talk about your soul, your essence. Reborn into new body, and bingo, we completely forget our previous lives and start from scratch again. Yeah, start from scratch again. Doesn't matter how rich you were, how poor you were, completely irrelevant, because everybody starts from scratch again. And this life is hard. It's hard. It's a lot of pain, a lot of fear, a lot of there's good stuff too. Don't get me wrong. But it's ingenious, and we also believe that there's an elite group of beings that have lived for a very long time indeed, that have somehow broken the reincarnation cycle, and those are the guys that are keeping us here, right? Someone put us here, or imprisoned us here, or maybe we just fell here, maybe it was an accident. I have no idea what happened, right? I really don't know, but we're here now, right? And maybe this whole thing is just meant to grind us down. After maybe a million reincarnations, our souls just explode or implode, or or they're turning into confetti. I don't know, but something clearly is happening, right? And I don't know what it is. But we are here now, and they figure it out. They figured it out tens of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years ago, and they are not being reborn anymore. They retain the original people that they were. They still are. They haven't died. Now these are the immortals, right? I'm talking about. I don't think that you can't kill them. I'm pretty sure you can, but they somehow have figured a way out on how to live a lot longer than everybody else. We spend a lot of time on immortality in the show, right? So this is where we're at. But okay. So again, back to the pineal gland. Well, why is that important? Because it's important because we think that might be the escape hatch to the real world. Because the prison you're in is your body. So it doesn't matter where you go in this universe. You're always in your prison, right? There's no escape. There's no magic gate that you can go to, because you're still stuck in this reality, right? Right, so you have to concentrate inwards, and this is really the genius of this prison, because all of our senses go outwards. Nobody looks inwards. You've got no sense that actively lets you look inwards, right? None, zero. There aren't any. You're completely focused on the outside, right? There are very few things that you can actually actively control about your body. I'm talking about the essential things like breathing and blood flow and digestion, things like that, right? It's all automatic. You don't actually have to look inside, right, to do any of that stuff. Therefore, all of us are completely focused on the outside. It's a red herring, guys. It's a red herring. And these initiations, these ancient mystery schools, they know that, right? They get you to focus on the inside. They put you in a completely soundproof box, yeah, with no light, no stimulation for your outer senses, yeah, no stimulation, right? So you have to focus on the inside. You have to. People start hallucinating after some time. You have to ask, is it really hallucination? So, and I believe in your dream state, before complete calcification sets in, of the pineal gland, you can actually reach your real home, our actual home, our actual level of existence, whatever that might be, unlimited. Because again, we said this before, in a dream, everything seems to make sense, right? While you're dreaming it, you're just dreaming it, and you're not thinking, oh, this is odd. Or you might, but you just go with it, right? You just go with it, and things pop up, and it's all good. You wake up, and the dream doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, zero. Okay, this is really odd dream. I don't understand it. But while you were dreaming, it made sense, because while you were dreaming it, your faculties were higher. You had a higher understanding of things. It made more sense because you could understand it. You come back to this reality, and this is also why I've got an issue with lucid dreaming. People say lucid dreaming is a good thing. I don't know. You know why? Because lucid dreaming ties you to this reality. It gives you this frame of reference. Yeah. Now think about this. If you lucidly dream and you're dreaming and everything makes sense in this frame of reference, right? Oh, I'm dreaming, okay. Then you've already shut down the door to higher entries and exits. You can't, because you're still caught here. So lucid dreaming, I don't think is a good thing, right? I don't think it's a good thing. But again, how do you cultivate that? It's a long and arduous process. You have to cut out all meat. You have to cut out alcohol. Some drugs seem to be helpful, right? But ideally, you get there without drugs. But some drugs do seem to help. And you just have to live a very ascetic, monk-like lifestyle, right? That's the only way that I know of on how to actually get there and use the pineal gland as an escape route. Then, of course, we're hoping that something else will happen, such as the awareness cascade, Dave, right? We're hoping that is actually true. I mean, it's part of the hypothesis. Is it true? I don't know. We're just postulating this because nothing else seems to make sense. Why did we have these extinction level events? Why has humanity always been, put back 100,000 years? Why have these civilizations that clearly came before us? Clearly, I mean, you have to be a moron not to see the evidence, right? It's there. We've discussed it at length, okay? The cities exist, the monuments exist. People always say, oh, how come I don't find an Apple computer in the desert? Because their technology was different. Because the technology was different. They did it differently, right? I mean, nature has solved the riddle of flying different ways. Birds fly differently to insects, or to bats for that matter, okay? Or to dandelions. Flight has been solved in many different ways. Similar technology will go very different ways. I mean, our technology went down the way of the steam engine, then, internal combustion. We did a whole bunch of stuff with sand, and then we had microchips, and that might be retro-engineered from, who knows? Who knows? The point is, the reason we don't find Apple computers is because their technology was different. We look at the technology every day, but we don't recognize it for what it is. And when we do find it, it seems to be a freak, like the mechanism of Antikythera. Oh yeah, that's just a freak thing. Oh, it's there. It's right there. Come on, just open your eyes. 2,000 years before we even had watches. Yeah? Anyway, so this is where we're at. So the pineal gland, very, very important. The pineal gland, very, 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 very important. We need to focus on how to harness that power, because it might be too late for Dave and I, or we might be too old, but our children hopefully aren't. And then maybe their children. But I'm still hopeful, Dave, that the awareness cascade will happen at 7.776 billion. And either we will have an awareness cascade at that point, right? Meaning, if you're Christian, I'm talking about a rapture-like event, or not, and an extinction level event will come to us, and the vast majority of us, 5-6 billion, will be killed. It's because that seems to be a trigger. I mean, we seem not to be allowed to reach a certain population size. Okay, and there has to be a reason for that, and that's why it's part of the hypothesis. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense, right? Those guys in charge, of course, they survive and they thrive, and that's all goodness. Now, before the break, though, which is coming up in a few moments, we are talking about the pineal gland, and I just want to quickly get us all back on track here. We stopped last week just short of this section I'm going to share with you, and then we're on the break, and Dave will take us through a study undertaken by Jennifer Luke. Very, very interesting study. We just have a quick abstract of the study that we share with you. But the pineal gland, has highest levels of fluoride in body, is what the statement is here. As a calcifying tissue that is exposed to a high volume of blood flow, the pineal gland is a major target for fluoride accumulation in humans. In fact, the calcified parts of the pineal gland, that's hydroxyapatite crystals, contain the highest fluoride concentrations in the human body, up to 21,000 parts per million. Higher even than bone or teeth. Okay, higher than bone or teeth. Although the soft tissue of the pineal does not accumulate fluoride to the same extent as the calcified part, it does contain higher levels of fluoride than found in any other types of soft tissue in the body, with concentrations of about 300 parts per million that are known in other contexts to inhibit enzymes. They are known to inhibit enzymes, okay? While the impacts of these fluoride concentrations in the pineal are not yet fully understood, studies have found that calcified deposits in the pineal are associated with decreased numbers of functioning pineal collates and reduced melatonin production, as well as impairments in the sleep-wake cycle. Another important thing is sleep-wake cycle. Like I said, dreams, we think that's a doorway to the real world, right? The pineal gland regulates your sleep, the circadian rhythms, sleep-wake cycles, right? It seems to be the doorway into the dream world. I know it's a little bit poetic, but just bear with me on this one, right? It's the doorway into the dream world. It's the doorway into the real world. And it's impairing our ability to sleep well. And you will die if you don't have REM sleep. Yeah, you will. It's going to happen. We spoke about that. Dave, we've got a few minutes, I think, before the break. I think we should ask people to donate if they can. It's very important. If you can, that would be really good. The station is entirely dependent upon your donations, and since this is just the beginning of the month and it's the holiday season, not a lot of people seem to have donated at this point. So if you can, there's a button in the chat room. There's a button on the webpage, right? It actually says donate. There's no ambiguity as to what you want to do there. If you can, that would be really good. Dave, sorry, I monopolized the last, I don't know, little bit. Did you want to add anything to my little rant there?
The only thing I wanted to add, which I think is important, when you were talking about the awareness cascade, quickly I went to the World Population Clock, and I was going to make that announcement again, that since the beginning of the year, this is the 10th day of the year so far, there's 2.2 new, growth of 2.2 million. 3.8 million were born, but 1.6 died, giving a net increase of 2.2 million people. Okay, so that brings the total quantity of people on the world right now to 7.393 billion. And I estimate at this rate, with another, if this is 1/5 of the amount of days is million, that by the end of the month we'll be at 7.4 billion.
Wow.
That's a lot, Mecci.
It is a lot.
Yeah. So just today we've grown by 180,000 people.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So given that kind of increase, Mecci, I think it's going to be way sooner before our estimations. I think it's getting closer and closer.
That's a worry. I'll be honest with you. I really want to be wrong on this. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And look, the awareness cascade is not a structural member of the hypothesis. It explains certain things, but there could be other explanations. It just made sense to use the awareness cascade, and we went to the Fibonacci sequence. That could also be completely wrong, but we used the Fibonacci sequence to calculate population numbers because that's the most found natural number sequence ever in nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you find the Fibonacci sequence in virtually all natural structures, and we thought, well, let's see if what the population would look like if we do in fact apply the Fibonacci sequence. So we could be wrong in that because these are all leaps. We said this at the beginning. They're leaps of deduction, and they're leaps of faith to some extent, I guess. Other stuff that we've shared with you is completely solid and factual. And there's the music. Don't go away, guys, and thank you for listening.
Don't forget, take the time to donate during the break. We'll be with you shortly.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on The Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge, we promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, your carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958. And Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Mecci's Shiny Side Out. This is show number 202. Welcome back. I hope you took the time throughout this short break to donate. Your donations are greatly appreciated. Mecci and I don't make any money from this. We do this for the goodness of our hearts. We really do. Yes, yeah. In whatever state that you receive them in, return packaging is at your expense. All I can say is welcome to all the new listeners, as Mecci announced at the beginning of the show. Thank you very much for tuning in weekly. 202 shows is not where I thought we'd be in the second week of being on air, and we thank you all. We honestly thank you all. Thank you so much. What I'd like to say is also thank you to Nighthawk. I think everyone skips thanking Nighthawk and his platform and for having this all available to us, as well as, I'm a listener too. I'm not just a radio host. I listen to Freedom Slips on my phone, and when I'm not around my computer, I really love it. I love what it brings. So if you have caught us by mistake, or you're watching one of our archives on YouTube, I'd like the comments below, and I really, really implore you to go to freedomslips.com and check out the other wonderful shows there. It's alive in the chat room tonight, Mecci. My goodness me.
Yes, it is.
Hello to everyone in there. And remember, if you've got a question for us on air, you can just ask away. Put some hyphens at the beginning and end so we can identify the question if it's directed at us to help. Or if you spell our chat room names the way that you see them, it'll announce to us in bold that it's for us. So thank you so much. Bella, this is me, Dave. So thanks, Mecci, for answering the question. Now, look, we're talking about, and this is the third episode, the third 2-hour show arc on the hypothesis. It's something that Mecci and I are. This is the summary, pretty much, of the previous 200 shows. and you know what? If you hear what we're saying and you don't agree, find what it is you don't agree about and let us know. I'd love to talk about this more with you. And have a look through our shows. Look to see what we've mentioned. And do your own research. Our platform is here for you to begin. If it's the beginning of your journey, we hope you have a great journey in knowledge. If this is the end of your journey, tell us where you've been. Let us know. It's really important. Mecci, how hippie do I sound?
You're a hippie.
Oh, I'm a hippie. I haven't even shaved. I've got a full beard. And I was at a market today, an open market where people were trading their goods that they'd made themselves, a tremendous thing. And to see the skills of some people, Mecci, I took myself forward in time to when there was a time with no electricity, and that people would have co-ops and get together, and this is the result would be people having these marketplaces and what you find in the high hills in Tibet and all around the world. So thank you for everyone for being here tonight. Mecci, you did have quite a long monologue there before the break. I think it was almost 25 minutes. It is appreciated. I let you roll. I didn't want to interrupt you. You're on a roll, and it was fantastic. Do you know, Mecci, with the pineal gland, there is something else. There's studies that have been taken.
Yes, sir. Please take us through that study that we have shared with everybody.
All right. So this is the study undertaken by Jennifer Luke. And Mecci highlighted some of the earlier highlights from it. And that is that the fluoride deposition on the aged human pineal gland. And look, if I'm repeating ourselves, this is the end of the show notes. So what we'd like you to do is to think about this heavily. And in wherever you live, think about what the ramifications of fluoride are and where this fits into our hypothesis. Okay, so the abstract is the purpose was to discover whether fluoride accumulates in the aged human pineal gland. In conclusion, the study presented evidence that fluoride readily accumulates in the aged pineal. Fluoride may also accumulate in a child's pineal because significant amounts of calcification have been demonstrated in the pineals from young children. This was the Cooper 1932, Wortman 1968. Oh, that's a tricky one. Carany. It's probably not right. No,
that's good.
All right, that'll do. And Sarkar, 1968. Tappan Huxley, that's going to be 1971. There's a whole bunch of these, and the most recent that we could see here was from 1984. In fact, calcification of the developing enamel organs and the pineal gland occur concurrently. Remember Mecci's tale when he went to the dentist and he asked his dentist about that fluoride rinse. And, well, why would I have to rinse with fluoride if it's in the water and it's in my toothpaste. Why would I have to rinse with this fluoride? He said, because the limited contact it has when you drink it does nothing. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Does nothing for your teeth. So if fluoride accumulates in the child's pineal, the what's that? Pinealocytes?
Yep, pinealocytes. Yep.
Yeah, those sites. I'm sorry, pineal sites will be exposed to relatively high local concentrations of fluoride. This could affect pineal metabolism in much the same way that high local concentrations of fluoride in the developing enamel organ affect
Ameloblast.
Ameloblast. Sorry, it was almost there.
Sorry.
Research, because you know me by now. Research, if I pause for a quarter of a second, you know that I'm trying to read it 3 times before I say it. Research is presently underway to discover whether fluoride affects pineal physiology during childhood, specifically pineal synthesis of melatonin. Mecci, let's do this alternately.
Absolutely.
Okay, some basics for pineal detox. 1, mercury, although I don't admit that anyone should be eating or consuming mercury. This is really bad for the pineal gland. It's poison. Don't let this get into your body. Mercury tooth fillings are pineal toxins. Have them removed and replaced with non-mercury fillings. All medical vaccines are also mercury tainted. Thimerosal, a vaccine preservative, is methylmercury and is very difficult to get out of the brain once it's there. These are cumulative. Avoid eating fish and bottom feeders such as shrimps and prawns. Tuna and dolphin meat is particularly bad for mercury. The bigger the fish, the higher concentration of mercury in its body tissue. Eco light bulbs, as Mecci and I discussed before. All of the eco bulbs, which aren't LED, it's the microfluorescence. All the fluorescents contain mercury. If you smash one of those globes, mercury vapor is released and there's also a single droplet of it. Avoid at all costs breaking them indoors. Mercury can be removed from the body by daily use of chlorella, wheatgrass, and spirulina. Cilantro herb taken daily can help remove mercury from brain tissue.
That's right. It's very important, guys. Mercury is not good. It's not good. Brings us to the second one. We discussed this earlier, fluoride. It's in toothpastes, and if you're unlucky enough, in your tap water. It's another heavy-duty poison. In fact, it's a chemical byproduct of industry. The Nazis put it into the drinking water. That should give you some pause.
It's enough. Hello.
Right? Avoid at all costs. Okay. I drink only filtered water. Most parts boiled. I'm still okay. My teeth are good. I brush my teeth, right, with a fluoride-free toothpaste, and I still have them. So it does work. It calcifies the pineal tissue and basically shuts the gland down. Yeah. So you ask yourself why do they put it in the water if it actually has no effect at all on teeth?
Yeah, there's a thought in that for all of us. Organic foods. Some pesticides are pineal toxins. Organic, healthy food with a high ratio of raw is supportive to pineal detox. Meat is not helpful either. Some people who channel seem to not be affected, but for many, the toxicity and density of meat will pose challenges, and we need to make the work easy if we can. Mecci.
That's right. Alcohol and smoking. Yeah, I know, guys. Sorry. And naturally, these need to go along with the emotional attachments to using them. Usually boils down to self-worth issues or unresolved trauma. Alcohol and smoking. What can I say? It's hard to give up. I do have a drink occasionally. I'm not a heavy drinker. I'm not a heavy smoker. In fact, I haven't smoked in a very long time. But I understand why people do it. It is a crutch. It helps. But if you can avoid it, that would be excellent. Dave.
I haven't smoked alcohol for quite a long time. I'm sorry. I shouldn't joke. Heart healing raises the overall vibration of the being and heals fear. a useful advantage for when we start seeing other dimensions.
I think
Ooh, I like that.
Dave has seen one. It's my opinion. There's a story he shared with you guys. Very strange, but I think he looked into one. Other toxins. If something is toxic, do not put it in your body. Hey, that's good advice. That's not
Sage advice for everybody, right
right?
there.
If you can't say its name, it's most likely bad. You know what that reminds me of? Of a Simpsons sketch. What was it? Like this is like a monkey paw that's cursed, and the guy in the shop goes to Homer. That's bad. And then he goes, but if you buy this monkey paw, you get an ice cream. Ooh, that's good. Yes, but it's sweetened with sodium benzoate. And Homer goes, huh? And the shopkeeper goes, that's bad. So yes, if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't probably eat it. Toxins include artificial sweeteners, aspartame K, for example. Refined sugar is really bad for you guys. You have sugar, have raw sugar. I know stevia is not very well liked. It's got a funny taste, but actually you can get by without sugar, believe it or not. But use the raw sugar if you have to. Phenylalanine in squashes, for example. That's bad. E numbers. Any E numbers beginning with 1. Any E numbers. You see them, right? You look at the ingredients. E this and that. You have no idea what is E. Something. Oh, must be all right. No. Deodorants. Now, these are deodorants. There's some that are better than others. Okay. Look at the ingredients again. Cleaning chemicals. If it burns your nose and you start having nosebleeds after you clean your toilet, that's probably not a good thing. So just believe it or not, if you want to clean your toilet, use Coca-Cola. There's a good use for Coca-Cola. Clean your toilets. That's good. Dental mouthwashes. In fact, salt water is much better. Believe it or not, my teeth started staining. I hadn't drunk coffee. I didn't drink red wine. I wasn't smoking. And I had 6 monthly cleanings of my teeth. So I went to the dentist every 6 months. So I said to the dentist, actually, I said to it was the girl that was cleaning my teeth. She's a dental
hygienist.
Hygienist, exactly. Thank you. And I said, well, I don't get it. And she goes, well, okay. Do you in fact use a mouthwash? I said, yes. Stop it. Why? Because it stains your teeth. I didn't believe it. I stopped using the mouthwash. My teeth didn't stain anymore. Haven't used it since. Okay, so it's counterintuitive, right? So, but don't use especially harsh ones that hurt your mouth. They're probably bad for your gums as well, right? So, again, salt water is really good. In fact, salt water is good for gargling if you have a sore throat, but not if your throat is red raw, right? Has to be before that. And do not use air fresheners. That is any air freshener, including the thing you hang in your car. You know that little pine tree you hang in your car? Don't hang it in your car, right? Open the window. I don't know. Take a shower. Wash your car. For something. But don't use air fresheners. Not for the home. Not for anywhere. Air fresheners do not replace fresh air. Okay? Air fresheners does not equal fresh air. Okay.
That's so true. Mecci, you're absolutely right. I know that one of the listeners that's here today in the chat room put me onto this, and that's the salt anti-deodorant.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because remember, the odor, not that I've got any odor. I'm clean.
You glisten, right?
Yeah, I shine, Mecci. I'm where they get the air freshener fragrance from. I'm kidding. Remember, the air fresheners are outgassing. That's what they're doing. They're outgassing chemicals. That's not good for you. Also, the one that you use for fabric softener is an outgasser. Do your research. And also, I think there's 32 or 35 names for sugar. You should know what they are and look at the packaging. It's not good for you.
High fructose glucose, not good.
Fructose. All the fructose products are bad for you. We can't metabolize it, and it ends up making fat, and your body can't deal with that much. Okay, so just be careful. They've just revised the quantities of accepted uses of sugar or the sugar products. All right. This thing surprised me, Mecci. I didn't expect it, and that is raw chocolate. Raw chocolate, raw cacao is a pineal gland stimulant, detoxifier in high doses because of the high antioxidant content. I haven't met a chocolate I didn't like.
That's right. This information was taken from humansarefree.com. Do yourselves a favor and go to the website. It's one word, humansarefree.com. Okay, you can find more information there. But we thought it would be important to include it here because, well, we tell you what it is, but so what can you do there? So what though? So what? So how can the pineal help us, right? And we'll take this in turns here, but this is important, right? Descartes, and we spoke about him before, was obsessed with understanding who we are. René Descartes, he was this philosopher who lived a little while ago. He questioned everything, even the notion whether or not we can know ourselves, right? He observed that the senses can be fooled, that most of what we think we know is really illusion, and finally struggled with the possibility that our own identity as individuals was also not real. We've discussed this, I guess it's taken a step further from living in an illusion. But in the end, he concluded that if it was possible to doubt your own existence, there had to be something that was capable of experiencing this doubt. And that thing was our true self, our true, like essence, if you will. His famous statement endures. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. In fact, the full phrase was dubito ergo cogito ergo sum. I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. And that really captures his intent, Dave.
Completely. And you know what? Without the full phrase, I think we're really missing the component of it.
Yes.
The first one, I think, therefore I am, is quite an egotistical view of just being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the full phrase is saying that I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am, explains the human experience.
Yes.
A lot better.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Now, he goes on to say, and this is a quote, although the soul is joined with the entire body, there is one part of the body, the pineal, in which it exercises its functions more than elsewhere. The pineal is so suspended between the passages containing the animal spirits. And I should elaborate here that in square brackets there is an explanation. And I haven't said that. Every time I said pineal so far, that's what I've said. This is guiding reason and carrying sensation and movement, end of square bracket, that it can be moved by them. It carries this motion onto the soul. Then conversely, the body machine is so constituted that whatever the gland is moved in one way or another by the soul, or for that matter, by any other cause, it pushes the animal spirits which surround it to the pores of the brain. There's something, Mecci.
Yes. Yes, and again, this is straight from the horse's mouth, Descartes. Now today, of course, with our understanding of computers and binary technology and how, I guess, we think we know that neurons work, we might take issue with Descartes. That thinking process could be a part of the circuitry of neurons, synapses, and neurotransmitters that exist in our material brains, right? So he didn't have that benefit of understanding. The real self seems to be much deeper. It uses the thinking process or the thinking machine, which is the brain, but it remains apart from it, not apart, away from it, observing the process, in fact. So the real self is, in fact, consciousness itself. So consciousness is the real self, and we're using the brain like a processing machine, right, to store information.
Storage.
Yeah, exactly.
And storage.
Exactly, storage and 100% correct, right? So obviously the two phenomena are connected. Consciousness interfaces with the thinking process, right? So think about that, guys, right? You got consciousness, and we're using the brain as an operating interface, right, for storage as well as for processing. So the question really is about how this interface of material, mind, and spiritual consciousness happens. We spoke about this as well in our mind-body problem show. And the answer is that there's no easy answer. Okay, there really isn't. You can think of the brain as a I guess a quantum, or the 3 or the 4-dimensional shadow of a quantum computer that lives in 5, 6, or 7 dimensions. Who knows, right? So it's really just an imprint or a manifestation of a much larger thing. If we can understand though how consciousness interprets our thinking our thinking self, then hopefully we can reverse the process and become aware of our consciousness, our true self, and that in turn then of course is enlightenment, right? So absolute stillness, that practice in martial arts, the absolute being in the moment, things like that, right? Shutting out all external noise, connecting with your true self, because everything else is just noise. It's just external distractions. They're just external. And Chindolo, yes, some people liken the brain to a radio, correct? Meaning it just picks up a signal that is sent from our consciousness or from somewhere else, and it just tunes into maybe even the Akashic record. I don't know, right? And exactly, receiver transmitter. Exactly, it's just a machine with which we communicate with this reality. That's what the brain is, and then you can liken to radio, you can liken to computer. It doesn't really matter, but the analogy still holds. I agree. That's very it's very interesting.
Think of it like the movie Avatar.
Yeah. That's
so
consciousness transfer. Yeah, that's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Now tell us about the pineal gland and history, Dave.
Oh, I never thought you would ask. I didn't look like you're going to. That's okay. Although commonly attributed to Descartes, the idea that the pineal gland was the interfacing organ where the spirit of man gained access to animated the human body was the idea of a Greek physician named Herophilus. 300 years before Christ, Herophilus was dissecting corpses and documenting what he observed. His specialties were the reproductive system and the brain. Prior to him, people believed the executive office of human consciousness was the heart. Egyptian mummies had their hearts carefully embalmed and preserved while their brains were removed through their nasal passages.
Yes, that's right.
And unceremoniously discarded. But Herophilus knew that the brain was the controlling center, and he went on to discriminate between the various parts of the brain and access the different behaviors associated with them. Thank you.
Herophilus noticed that the small pineal structure was singular, unlike other brain features, that are mirrored in the left and right hemispheres. We spoke about this. It's just a singular structure between the two hemispheres, hence the symbology, or symbolism, I should say. It is the first gland to be formed in the fetus. It is the first gland to be formed in the fetus. You know why? Because that's how we get here, anyway. And is distinguishable at 3 weeks. It is also highly nourished. So people wonder when we start life, you've got your answer in 3 weeks. That's when you should consider a fetus a human being at 3 weeks.
Pro-lifers are going to love you.
I don't care. That's my yardstick here, right? 3 weeks, because that's when the gland is formed, and that's when the consciousness can enter into the reincarnation cycle yet again. The pineal gland has been supplied with the best blood, oxygen, and nutrient mix available in the human anatomy. Second only, it was kidneys, only to that of our kidneys, whose function is to filter the blood of impurities, like a very important function, clearly. Because of this unique and special anatomical configuration, Herophilus rightly concluded it had a major role in consciousness and was a gateway to our real self. So, this is funny because I didn't know about Herophilus until we did research, for the radio here. Mm-hmm. But he agreed, essentially, some 2,500 years ago, with our I guess conclusions. So we're not stealing from him, because I honestly didn't know about him until I researched it. But we came to the same conclusion, and it's these verifications of the hypothesis that we've come across all along as we are developing this hypothesis, right? And we haven't come across very many things that go against the hypothesis. Again, as Dave invited everybody, please let us know where we're wrong. Herophilus is also credited with the invention of the scientific method. Yeah, the dogma of just about every scientific inquiry today, which consists of postulating theories and conducting experiments to prove or disprove them. It is ironic, then, that scientific inquiry of the pineal gland has been vigorously avoided because of its association with spiritual phenomena, incapable of empirical scrutiny. Only recently have scientists become interested in knowing more about this mysterious gland. Herophilus wrote many volumes about anatomy and illustrated them, much as Leonardo da Vinci did centuries later. But sadly, his work did not survive the destruction of the great library in Alexandria, where they were stored. Now, I just want to very quickly say something before Dave tells us about the third eye. Okay? This is the problem, and we've identified this problem a number of times in the shows. We are completely separating the physical and the spiritual. Wrong. We can't explain our existence unless we bring them together. It's impossible, because there are things we can't just cut up anymore, right? You can't. How do you weigh intent or love or compassion, or how do you measure it? Really, empirically, you can't. And he himself here clearly has seen the limits as well of empirical scrutiny, right? And we said this as well. We need something more than the scientific method. The scientific method is fine, guys. I'm not against it. Really, I'm not. It works really well for the physical world. It works really well. It doesn't work well at all in quantum physics, and it doesn't really work very well at all in the, I guess, let's call it the spiritual sciences. I don't want to call it spiritual, though. Maybe the paranormal. Again, I don't want to say that either, but it's the realm beyond the physical, where it doesn't work at all. It all falls apart. Very important to realize this. We need some kind of other method to study these phenomena. We just do. All right. I haven't got it yet. I'll send the challenge out there to everybody. But Dave, sorry, tell us about the third eye.
Sure. And this is one of my interests. It's on my list of discovery. By 1884, the field of comparative anatomy, that'll be the word I'm going to be using from now on, was revealing evidence that human organs could be traced back to lower vertebrates. F. Alborn recognized that pineal gland was originally a photoreactive organ in fish and amphibians, and was sometimes located outside the skull, just under the skin. Its function as a trigger for reproduction was noted some 70 years later. The pineal gland was responsible for evaluating the length of the day and night, calculating the correct season to mate, and turning up the sex drive. By 1958, Aaron Lerner discovered melatonin, a vital molecule produced in the pineal gland from another common neurotransmitter, serotonin. I know Sarah. She just lives down the street. He also, that's a real name. He also validated the fact that the production of melatonin varied, stopping during the daylight and ramping up shortly after darkness. Melatonin, it was learned, was responsible for making us relaxed and putting us to sleep. For a while, it was not known how this small gland, buried deep in the middle of the human brain, could sense light or darkness. But it was later discovered that there was a link to the pineal gland from the retinas, which, oddly enough, also contained melatonin. And in no time, the pineal gland was being called the third eye. And because of its location at one of the 7 chakras, it was reputed to be the center of the spiritual and psychic energy, Mecci.
As hallucinogens became popular in the late 1960s, in the West, they were popular long before then.
They had, yeah, exactly, all around in every continent on the planet.
That's right.
People, yeah.
The shamans and medicine men were using, they were using it for a long time. Interest in altered states of consciousness as a means of spirituality peaked. Researchers discovered that LSD became highly concentrated in the pineal and pituitary glands. The altered state was produced by LSD's ability to imitate serotonin at the synapse, where the neurons communicate with each other. That's the synapses, right? That's where they interface. Since both serotonin and melatonin are also concentrated in the pineal gland, this third eye was considered a portal to consciousness. What author Aldous Huxley, he wrote A Brave New World, by the way, called the door of perception. Very poetic. I like it. Even gurus have commented on the pineal, equating it to one of the chakras. And this is from Satyananda, 1972, in fact. All psychic systems have their physical aspects in the body. With Ajna chakra, the physical equivalent is the pineal gland, which has long baffled doctors and scientists as to its precise function. Yogis, who are scientists of the subtle mind, have always spoken of telepathy as a siddhi, a psychic power for thought communication and clairaudience, and so on. The medium of such siddhis is Ajna chakra, and its physical terminus is the pineal gland, which is connected to the brain. It has been stated by great yogis that the pineal gland is the receptor and center of the subtle vibrations which carry thoughts and psychic phenomena throughout the cosmos.
But is any of the supported Herophilus's scientific method? Many experiments were conducted on so-called psi, or paranormal phenomena, in the 1970s. Dixon found that the pineal gland was the prime focus of this activity. He noted that psi activity was most successful in relaxed, drowsy state, similar to those induced by melatonin. Other studies, that means the pineal gland was active, other studies found correlations with melatonin and the practice of yogic meditation, thought to be a prerequisite for enlightenment. Mecci.
Yogic practices for 3 months resulted in an improvement in cardiorespiratory performance and psychological profile. The plasma melatonin also showed an increase after 3 months of yogic practices. The systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, mean arterial pressure, and orthostatic tolerance did not show any significant correlation with plasma melatonin. However, the maximum nighttime melatonin levels in yoga group showed a significant correlation. Okay, which was the confidence interval was less than 0.5%, and it was a 0.71 confidence of a statistically significant result. Now, these observations suggest that yogic practices can be used as psychophysiologic stimuli to increase endogenous secretion of melatonin, which in turn might be responsible for improved sense of well-being. I just want to quickly say that we've also shown, well, when I say we, not Dave and I, but people, scientists, have shown that the brain chemistry of monks that spend a lot of time in meditation is significantly different from the brain chemistry of you and I. Well, unless you are a practitioner of regular meditation. Significantly different. In fact, much better than ours. More dramatic evidence comes from mystical and near-death experiences induced by a chemical called dimethyl triptaptamine, which is DMT. The traditional sacrament of South American shamans, DMT closely resembles both melatonin and serotonin. We have the chemical representation of the molecule actually as part of a picture here in the show notes. You can look at that. Mm-hmm. And they are really quite similar.
It has receptors for both.
Yep, mm-hmm. And it occurs naturally in some tropical vegetation as well as in the human body. That's DMT. It is thought that stored DMT is released from the pineal gland just prior to death, causing the out-of-body experience and mystical visions reported by near-death survivors. While there has been no empirical evidence linking the pineal gland to the production of DMT, its association with melatonin, from which it is made, seems to strongly suggest this possibility. As an endogenous or naturally produced human psychedelic, I believed it might mediate spontaneous psychedelic experiences such as near-death and mystical states. I also considered the pineal gland a likely source of this endogenous DMT. As such, the pineal might be a spirit gland. This is from Rick Strassman, 2001.
Medical researcher J.C. Calloway in 1988 suggested that naturally occurring DMT might be connected with visual dream phenomena where brain DMT levels are periodically elevated to induce visual images and possibly other paranormal states of mind. Actually, I have to say that I have visual experiences all the time in my dreams. So, back to the statement, although empirical proof of these esoteric functions of the pineal gland have not been found, the idea seems worth pursuing. And that comes from viewzone.com, pineal.
Absolutely. Now, We still have a lot of time, which is great. We want to talk about the initiation now, because clearly it's quite a it's quite a feat to activate the gland. And let's just look at what the Egyptian ladder of initiation, and this is supposed to be the first, the very first secret society that we know of, what they had to go through. And some of these initiation rites may have survived in secret societies today, potentially, right? So Dave and I will go through these one by one to give you an idea of what this ladder of initiation actually is. So we're going to go through this, and this is something that you will need to adopt in your life as well, right? To some extent, if you wanted to activate your pineal gland. Now, the first stage, the zero stage, is in fact the aspirant, the candidate for admission, and represented by the earth as the symbol. Preparation. It's a purification of the body and development over control over physical appetites, right? Preliminary testing and emotional responses, intelligence, willpower, and obedience, right? So it really is it's the first step on the ascetic lifestyle.
Correct. The Pastophorus, apprentice, neophyte, water, amen. Baptism, purification of the emotions, development of love and mastery of the emotions.
The next one is a neochorus, the craftsman or the disciple, represented alchemically by air or Eve. It's transfiguration, a purification of the mind, development of understanding and mastery of thoughts, right? The stillness of mind, being able to shut out the outside world.
Melanophorus or Menophilos, master or initiate. What was the first? Fire is what that would stand for, and MCM, I'm not sure what that is, Mickey. What's that?
In this context, I'm not entirely sure either. I'm going to look it up.
Okay, so it's to do with crucifixion or development and mastery of the will, power, and ability to act in service in any conditions of life, experience of humility, death, and the underworld.
Yeah, this is the crucible as well, crucifixion crucible. The fourth stage is Christophorus, and this is the archmason or adept, and symbolized by the earth and Iowa. And I think these are the Greek symbols, but I'm going to check that, Dave. Now this is the resurrection, the emergence into a higher life and consciousness. This, I guess, it would also be similar in Skull and Bones, coming out of the coffin. So the crucifixion would be the coffin in this state, and then once you're out of the coffin where they put you, that's the emergence into a higher life and consciousness. Defeat and mastery of all self-illusion and vanity, the Gorgon. Investment with the powers and attributes of an adept.
Number 5 of 7, the Balahate, the philosopher master. Water is the sign. And what's that, Chimera?
Chimera, yeah, that's probably changing.
Chimera, okay. Ascension and defeat and mastery of the typhonic energies of life, mastery of the processes of life, and that's alchemistry.
Yep. The sixth stage is Mar or Maver, the seer, the priest, represented by the element air and ibis. It's this unification, the astronomer before the gates of the gods, discovery and knowledge of the divine principles, and their spiritual plan.
Nice. So this is Safenath. Is that Panchar or Pankar? Do you think?
I think it's Pankar.
Pankar. The prophet or illuminated one. And this is enthronement.
Enthronement.
The man enthronement. What did you say?
It's enthronement. It's being placed.
I see, enthronement.
Right. That's
Thank you. The man who knows the mysteries, full illumination and unification with divinity.
And I say, good luck trying to achieve that. Now,
I threw everything out the second floor window of my house just till I could have nothing. How's that?
Yeah, I like it. Now, this was taken from the Arcadia by Peter Dawkins, as are the following extracts we're going to share with you. But so this is the I guess the ladder, or the well, let's call it evolution, if you will, of the spiritual progress of the initiates in the secret societies and the mysteries. Right now, there are of course things that you have to do for each stage. We just have given you a description of what they embody, or what is meant to be the outcome, right? But clearly, they all have a very rigorous disciplines with it, like being locked up, not eating for 40 days, whatever it might be, right? So there's a lot of hard work involved in this. The Egyptians used a dramatic series of rituals to prepare the candidates for initiation into the lesser and greater mysteries of life. The experience uses the senses of the candidate to introduce him to the lesser mysteries. The senses for the lesser mysteries. If the candidate was deemed worthy, he or she would then be granted apprenticeship into the greater mysteries. This path was concerning the story of Osiris, Isis, Horus, Seth, and Nephthys, and the human soul on its path to initiation. Now, that's what the Egyptians did. I believe that's based on much older mythology and much older initiation rites, right? They just survived in Egypt through the mystery schools, okay? And some of this survives today in the secret societies as well. The secrets of the initiation path survived in fragments and pieces in the Krata Repoea. The Krata Repoea is a work made up of fragments from many ancient authors. The unknown compiler had as his purpose a restoration of the ancient mysteries based upon the hints and allusions contained in the classical writings, which themselves go back much, much further into the dim and distant past. Most of the great philosophers of antiquity were in fact initiates of state mysteries, and in fact, think about Plato and what he said about us living in a cave. In their writings, these men frequently, and it was men largely because we lived in a patriarchal society at that point, these men frequently allude to some fragment of the initiatory rites. These hints have been carefully organized, placed in sequential order, and connected with an editorial tissue. The result is a restoration founded upon the actual words of the initiates themselves. And that was written by Manly P. Hall, Freemasonry of the Ancient Egyptians.
Peter Dawkins elaborates on Hall's passage with this statement. The Krata Repoa illustrates the usual 7 major degrees of initiation that follow on after the initial period of preparation. These 7 degrees of initiation are the last 7 stages of the alchemical work of 12 stages. The first 4 stages are preparatory, whilst the 5th is the threshold in which the white stone is born from the darkness of primer materia. The threshold plus the first 3 degrees of the initiation form the lesser mysteries of virginity. The final 4 degrees comprise the greater mysteries of light. Each set of 4 degrees is based upon the pattern: 1, birth or rebirth; 2, desire of learning to love; 3, the thought or learning to understand; and 4, action or learning to serve. Mecci, you can get them in a sec. These steps of initiation are modeled after the process of alchemy, or to be more specific, the Hermetic study of alchemy. There are 12 alchemical steps, Mecci.
There's 1, calcination; 2, solution; 3, separation, and the 4th step is conjunction and purification. You then have in the 5th stage coagulation; 6 is cibation; 7, sublimation; 8, fermentation. Again, the next one is 9, exaltation; 10, multiplication; 11, projection; and then finally, the 12th step is completion.
These steps are arranged in patterns of 4, representing the expression of Thoth, Twa, Ra, and Amen, and emanation, creation, formation, and manifestation. These relate to the 4 elements and the 4 seasons. The reason there is a grouping of 3 sets of 4 is to emanate the life cycle of the scarab beetle. The Egyptians used the scarab as a symbol for the processes of life. Alchemically, they are as follows, Mecci.
One is the lesser work, which is the black phase. 2 is the greater work, which is the white phase. And 3 is the afterwork, the red phase. Now, I need you to understand. I'm going to go through what that actually means in a second. Did we also discuss this? We also discussed this, Dave, when we spoke about ORME. Remember the black, white, and red phases when white gold powder was produced?
Yes.
Same thing here, right? This is it. This is alchemy, guys. This is what predate or precursor of chemistry. It's important stuff. Dawkins further outlines the symbolism of the scarab. So let me just take you through that symbolism. The black phase, the first phase, the scarab lays its egg, which is black, in a pellet of dung, which it buries underground in absolute darkness. This phase lasts for 1 month until the egg reaches maturity. This is, when it comes to initiation, if you will, this is shutting ourselves off from all sensory input. It's a very, very important part of the initiation process. Second is the white phase. From this egg, a white larva is born. Okay. During the second phase, which lasts a further month, this larva feeds off the egg's substance, whatever's left of it. This phase culminates with the larva entering its nymphal state, during which the mummified larva works its self-transformation. So, it's like, think of a caterpillar, in its pupae, transforming into a butterfly. This is all the same symbolism. This, once you've been shut out of this world in some kind of sensory deprivation, you're reborn within yourself. Yeah, you're reborn within yourself. The third, from this mummy then emerges a new scarab. Its head and thorax are red, its abdomen and wing sheaths are white, whilst the remaining parts of his body are black. Now, here we come, I can't believe it, to the final thought. Okay? This is important, and I need you to understand this, guys, because this is the culmination of the last 3 shows, and I don't think we've recorded this, so we may actually speak this in the future again. The ultimate escape is only possible through complete understanding and cultivation of the pineal gland. That is the great work of the Buddhas and other enlightened or holy figures. We are not the first to realize this. This knowledge is thousands, maybe older, of years old, and is being continuously suppressed on occasion with deadly force. I point you to the Cathars and the crusades against them. The closer we get to the truth, the more frightened they become. And we've explained who we think they are. Okay, they are the actual survivors of ancient times. Yeah, this is important, and this is the truth. I want to give you the truth. This is the truth. This is it. We are ultimately all capable of escape. All of us. That's the truth. That's the simple truth. That's it. That's really, really, really it. We can all do it. And that's what they're terrified of. That's why they have distracted us. That's why they're putting chemicals into our bodies. That's why they're giving us public education, which completely distracts us from the truth in life. Because most people don't think about any of this. And you listening to this, you're the few. You are the few. Very few people have any interest in this. Like the followers of the old religions, like Wicca, they know about this. They follow this. The modern religions have completely plastered over this knowledge. Completely. You don't know it. It's not even mentioned, right? In fact, people that had the knowledge in the same framework of religion, like the Cathars, for example, they were extinguished. They were completely exterminated because they couldn't be allowed to live. They survived, in secret societies and so forth. But this knowledge is ultimately dangerous for them. They are terrified of going on. They've become institutional. We actually should pity them. They're institutionalized. We should not. We should not. We should not feel bad. We should not feel anger or hate. We should feel pity. They cannot go on. We also, all of us, we can go on. We should go on. Right? We have a higher truth to aspire to. We've got a higher life to live. Right? We were stuck here in a cycle of reincarnation until we can actually realize. And it's really hard. It is hard, guys. It's hard to do it. Become a vegetarian. Don't drink. Don't smoke. Yeah. Forego any worldly pleasures. Focus on your internals. Focus on your internals. Meditate 23 hours a day. Good luck with that. It's tough. It's hard, right? But look, it's true though, right? But it's meant to be hard. So everything that you think is good and enjoyable in this life just binds you closer to your prison. It just binds you closer to your prison. This is what it is, and it's ingenious. You couldn't design anything better if you tried. It is fantastic. It is flawed because people do remember, right? People do remember past lives. There are flaws within the physics of the system. So we know that whatever this is, this cannot be the actual real world, our real home, because there are a lot of flaws. There are a lot of things that actually weren't really well finished. Yeah, like it was almost like a rush job, this universe. And there's the music. Okay, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for being with us all the way through this 202 shows so far. We'll see you next week for show 203. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Lock down.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.